most obviously mythical stories to which Strauss had pointed. Even so, it had many features which would not be expected in a straightforward historical narrative. One of these was a theme of secrecy, which runs through the Gospel. Listen to these passages, which refer to Jesus raising someone from the dead.
Jesus forbade them to tell anyone. Jesus sent him home, saying, "Do not tell anyone in the village."
If Jesus had worked such a spectacular miracle as raising someone from the dead, how could it be kept a secret? Everyone would know the person was alive again. For some reason, Jesus seems preoccupied with secrecy.
Then Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone about him.
And there are many similar examples. The Reverend Dennis Nynam is Professor of New Testament Studies at Bristol University and has made a special study of Mark's Gospel.
A German scholar called William Wrede saw in this theme of secrecy the clue to Mark's Gospel. Although many of the things Jesus did were so remarkable that you'd have expected people to recognize him as Messiah, they didn't, according to Mark. This was mainly because Jesus himself, in Mark's account, took steps to see that what he had done was not made public, even in cases where in practice it wasn't possible to keep it secret.
Wrede's explanation was that the sources Mark relied on contained no reference to Jesus as the Messiah. But Mark believed Jesus had been the Messiah. So Mark explained the absence of such reports by inventing the theme of secrecy. The crucial thing about this realization is that it tells us a lot about the purpose of the Gospels.
As a complete explanation of Mark's Gospel, Wrede's theory has proved inadequate. But it contained enough truth to make clear one vitally important thing. A Gospel is not a work of straight history or biography. It's a work of theology, or if you like, of propaganda, designed to get across certain religious points. How much, then, can we know about Jesus? It's a particularly teasing question when you remember that in what they do give us, the evangelist's emphasis is on building up our faith rather than on satisfying our historical curiosity.
The first man to take into consideration all the implications of New Testament analysis up to the time of Wrede was Albert Schweitzer, Nobel Prize winner, African missionary, and eminent New Testament scholar. He addressed himself to the traditional image of Jesus as the Son of God, who was born of a virgin, who walked on water, and who rose to heaven. This is what he said.
The image has not been destroyed from without. It has fallen to pieces, cleft and disintegrated by the historical problems which came to the surface one after another. We must be prepared to find that historical knowledge of the personality and life of Jesus will not be a help, but perhaps even an offense to religion. He will be to our time a stranger and an enigma.
The damage inflicted to the image of the historical Jesus by 19th century scholarship has gone largely unnoticed by the Church's congregation. The debate confined itself then, as it does today, to the closed and cloistered world of academia. Several factors have conspired to keep it there. Initially, the Catholic Church resolved to defend the literal truth of the Bible by fighting fire with fire. Pope Leo XIII encouraged Catholic theologians to adopt the rigorous methods used by the German scholars. In answer to his call, the Catholic modernist movement emerged, centered in Paris. One of its leading figures was Alfred Loisy, but his findings were not quite what the Vatican had in mind. He concluded that the Gospels contained numerous inconsistencies, and that Matthew's and John's Gospels were particularly unreliable as historical documents. In England, the theologian Father George Tyrrell combined similar criticism with the suggestion that claims for papal infallibility were a profound mistake. The reaction from the Vatican was swift. And once more, the offices of the ancient Inquisition echoed with accusations. The work of the modernists was condemned and Catholic students forbidden even to read its results. The more extreme wings of the Church formed spy networks and drew up blacklists of theologians who might have been tainted. In the end, both Loisy and Tyrrell were excommunicated. And for many years, all candidates for the Catholic priesthood had to swear an anti-modernist oath at their ordination. For this reason, it's Protestants who have remained in the forefront of research into the historical Jesus. Research which has been fueled by further discoveries. In 1896, members of the British-based Egypt Exploration Society went in search of early papyrus documents which, in Egypt's dry climate, remained intact. They'd identified an ancient rubbish tip at Oxyrhynchus, which was yielding hundreds of papyri from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th centuries. One appeared to be an early Christian document. It comprised fragments of a collection of sayings of Jesus, some of them new and not included in the New Testament Gospels. What interested scholars was that there was nothing else. The linking narrative about where or when Jesus uttered any of the sayings was mysteriously missing. Its absence prompted the German scholar Karl Ludwig Schmidt to carry out an experiment. He removed the linking passages from the Gospel accounts so that they too were reduced to collections of sayings and deeds. He then examined the linking phrases he'd removed. They were devoid of detail, just vague lines which joined together Jesus' deeds and sayings. Schmidt concluded that these lines had been made up by the Gospel writers to string together Jesus' sayings and deeds, which had come down to them as an unconnected list. If so, the narrative passages had no historical validity. Much of this remained speculation until a remarkable discovery was made near a village